Okay, so I'm Maria. I hope everyone is doing well. Please let me know if you have any questions, concerns about the class, or if you need any accommodations. As you know, we are living a historical moment. This is something huge. We are going to talk about this virus in the future to future generations, and self-care is very important. So please let me know if you have any questions or any concerns. So I'm leading discussion today, and I want to talk about whiteness. In particular, I want to take a moment to think about the phrase making whiteness strange. This is something that Professor Villagrán mentioned on Monday. So what does it mean making whiteness strange? According to the reading, white is often the normal, the default category, the invisible category. When we talk about race, usually people have in their minds people of color, and we don't think about white as a racial category. And when we do that, when we take whiteness as the normal, we don't question whiteness. We don't ask about the structures, discourses, norms, or practices that sustain whiteness. As we know, whiteness is part of a hierarchy. Whiteness is at the top of the racial hierarchy. So if we want to change the world, if we want to push for meaningful changes and smash racism, we need to make whiteness visible. We need to make visible the norms and practices that sustain whiteness, to dismantle whiteness as a superior racial category. For me, that's the whole point of making whiteness strange, is to name whiteness, to make it visible in order to deconstruct it, to dismantle it as a category that separates the world between inferior and superior human beings. So my first question to you is to think about an example that makes whiteness visible. Professor Villagrán talked about Hunger Games, and he showed some of the reaction people had when whiteness was not the norm anymore. In a minute, I'm going to show you an example from MTV, but I look forward to hearing your own examples. Can you think a moment when whiteness was strange? Can be your own example, an example from the media, from your friends. When suddenly whiteness was not the norm anymore, what happened? What was white people's reaction to that situation? Why they reacted in that way? Now let me show you my pop culture example. I found a very interesting film from MTV that it calls White People, and the whole point of the film is to make whiteness strange. I want to show you a specific moment when Katie, a white community college student, talked about her challenges to get a college scholarship. So here goes my second question to you. Please think about how whiteness was visible for Katie. What was Katie's reaction to that visibility, and how we can explain her reaction? So I have two questions. You can answer both if you want, or just one. First, bring your own example of making whiteness strange. Second, tell us your reflection about the video clip, how whiteness was visible.
Hi,
I'm
nice
Jose.
to meet you.
Katie, right?
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Thank you
Come
for
on
having
in.
us. This is where you grew up?
Yeah, this is Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, wait. What's that?
That is
Oh,
my...
you're in the honor roll.
Well, I graduated as a high school scholar.
So where are you going to school right now?
I am going to Paradise Valley Community College.
How was the high school experience like for you?
I graduated top of my class in the top 10%. I graduated with 3.8 GPA.
It's a lot higher than mine. Okay, great.
Even with all that being done, I'm not able to have that education that I had hoped for.
So what was the plan?
The plan was Grand Canyon University. That's what my dream was.
So what happened when you applied?
I did get accepted.
Hey, you
yeah.
got accepted.
Yeah, that was
Awesome.
really cool.
Okay.
However, my biggest worry was the finances.
Yeah.
I just started noticing that there were all these scholarships for, for race.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, I don't qualify for any of those just because of the color of my skin.
How does that feel?
It kind of feels like I'm being discriminated against a little bit.
We told Katie when she was growing up, just work hard, get your grades, it'll get you far. But I think that now white folks aren't getting the same opportunities. It's kind of almost reverse discrimination in that way.
We have heard white students who say that white students are at a disadvantage when it comes to the college admission process, financial aid, scholarships, and this is unfair. Talk to me about the facts. What are the actual statistics about scholarships that are available to white students in this country?
Available to white students, virtually all of them. I think it's something like 96% are actually available to white students. In terms of who gets the scholarships, white students are usually about 40% more likely than students of color to actually receive that type of aid.
40% more likely.
That's correct.
This surprised me. It turns out that even though 62% of undergraduate college students are white, they get 69% of private scholarships. On the other hand, minority students make up 38% of the undergraduate population, but get only 31% of private scholarships. So despite all we've heard about white students being at a disadvantage, they're actually disproportionately getting more scholarships.
So what do I tell to white students?
Yes.
Specifically, I spoke to this young white student
Yes.
who feels that she is at a disadvantage.
You're not at a disadvantage. It's you're simply not. Everybody in the situation, especially as it pertains to paying for college, everybody is struggling right now.
She's not going to want to hear that. So there's a lot of white students who feel that because they're white, that scholarships may not be available to them. But if you actually looked at the facts, if you are white, you are more than 40% likely to get a scholarship than if you're not white. So I'm curious, how do you then explain this feeling that white students feel that they're at a disadvantage?
Maybe because they just expected to get all the scholarships.
Any minority group, if they get a scholarship, I feel like straight white men feel like something is being taken away from them because they don't get it.
I've never had a problem finding a scholarship.
What do you say to somebody like that?
Google?
I'm Jose.
I'm Michael. Michael, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man. Anytime.
So this real feeling that Katie and many other young white Americans have, right? That I can't get the financial aid or the scholarship money that I should be able to get or I deserve to get because I happen to be white. Would you agree with that? That that's a disadvantage?
Oh, yeah, because two girls that we know, one white and one's Filipino. They both applied for like the same scholarship and the Filipino one got it and the other one didn't, the white girl didn't.
Even though she wasn't as qualified.
I think that there might be other factors involved too. I mean, maybe she's Filipino, but that might not be why she got in. The reasons that people get scholarships are not always clear. And I think if you wanted to inquire why, you would have to ask the people who gave the scholarship.
I think this is where I have to kind of give you some facts, right? Around 21 million people apply for financial aid. About 76% of all institutional merit-based scholarships go to white students. And if you're a white student, you're 40% more likely to get a scholarship than if you were a person of color. Are you surprised by the numbers?
Yes, I'm very surprised. Because the way Katie was making it sound like, oh, I'm being penalized, and that made me think like, oh, maybe like they are kind of directly aiming it towards the minorities, but with those numbers, obviously, they're not.
Okay, now I'm like the victim here.
Why did you say that, by the way? You said that, like you're making me out to be a victim.
I mean, I know I don't want to come off like that to you guys.
You can say whatever you want to. That's fine.
No, I know. I mean, it's, like, because, you were, like, you seem to be understanding, but then when the numbers came around.
When the numbers, it did kind of change my view a little bit.
I feel like you guys are attacking me now.
I know where...
Opinions are opinions.
I'm kind of
not saying,
I
like...
put myself in both sides' shoes, I guess you could say.
Katie's feeling about this is an unfair system and now I'm at a disadvantage, that is a feeling that a lot of young white people that I talk to feel.
Most people feel like this because me, even with all the races I am, I wasn't able to get any scholarships. So it's not just you being white, it is hard to get scholarships now.
Katie, how are you reacting to what your friends just said?
Maybe it's just my side of it. Maybe it's all that I've seen, being born and raised here, having predominantly associated myself with generally Caucasian people. My view is what it is because of my experiences, and maybe I am wrong.
But here's the point that I want to make, and this is what I really want to make sure that you understand. You're not the only person who feels this way. When you hear that Christopher, who's a mixed race and who's a minority, has a hard time getting a scholarship, like, what did you think of that?
It really opened my eyes to see that there is a challenge, no matter who you are or where you come from. It's hard, and my initial concern was just feeling excluded from certain things, just because no one likes to feel excluded, especially for the color of their skin.